All right, welcome to Necessary Roughness, presented to you by Stadium Rant. This is the recap of the NFL Week 10. I'm joined by John. I've got Nick. Producer Chris could not be with us tonight, but we send him our best wishes and regards. Of course, I am your host, the one and only Meg Hall, and we got a jam-packed show for you tonight. So let's just run through what we're going to talk about. We've got some hot topics, or at least one hot topic that we want to chat through. Winner Circle, as always, we review the top 5 games from the week. And we got a little bit of a different show. We're going to do a deep dive on the injury report because there are a lot that happened this week, including several today. So we'll hop right into those. And finally, we will do rapid fire week 11 pick'em. I will not talk about my record because it's pretty ugly from last week. I will just say that I need to do a whole lot better this week. So, all right, if you're ready to just hop in, let's talk about the hot topic of this week. So we've got, there we go. We've got any given Saturday or any given Sunday, so to speak. So this is a play on, obviously, Jeff Saturday getting the nod at head coach, which we talked about last week. It has been a wild several weeks now, maybe a month for the Colts. As you probably know, in case you haven't been living underneath a rock for the last several weeks, Jeff Saturday is now the head coach, or the interim head coach, of the Indianapolis Colts. They went to go play the Raiders in Vegas, and Saturday comes out with a win. Which is pretty good considering not having experience. But I also want to give a shout out to Parks Frazier. He was the play caller in that game, also with no experience in play calling. So this is really good to see from the Colts. And I would like your thoughts off the top of your head. Nick, I'll actually start with you. What did you think from Jeff Saturday and his staff?
I mean, just a great overall game plan, I thought. He kind of came in as kind of like this mentality of, I don't know why we're not running it with Jonathan Taylor this season. I know he's been hurt, but like, I'm going to give him the rock and see just what he can do, because we already know from last season he was arguably the best running back in football at the end of the last year, and he's not been that same player this year. So I think that Jeff kind of thought, listen, not working out for us so much this year. It's my first game as a head coach. We got a new play caller, so we're just going to feed our star player. And I thought it really worked out. I thought that, obviously him going for over 140 yards, he was just an absolute tank, and that's what he can do on a consistent basis. And I think that Jeff just went with his best player. And I also thought that it helped that Matt Ryan was back in the fold, because just to have a veteran presence there, along with the, young head coach, the rookie head coach from his first game. I just thought, obviously the sky has been falling for Las Vegas for weeks and weeks. So I think it was kind of a perfect game for Jeff to coach his first game in the NFL, and it was a good game for the Colts. Great win.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, John, what would you add?
Well, yeah, smart move going back to the mobile quarterback. I think that really juiced the offense a little bit. And no, that was a sick scramble though. That was really fun to see. Yeah. But I don't know. I kind of saw it coming a little bit just because of just the new energy in the building, all the pride of the players and everything like that. Jeff Saturday probably came in pretty rah-rah, former player, O-line guy. Buck 47 for Jonathan Taylor on the ground. Like Nick said, I think you know what Jeff Saturday wants to do, and he was able to do that with the game plan against Vegas. I don't know how much we take from that necessarily. Vegas has been awful. But I think the win's a really good sign, and that division's still a little wide open, So, I mean, if you really get Jonathan Taylor going again, producer Chris actually dropped a stat on Twitter today. Jonathan Taylor's just like right in the ballpark of yards, attempts, receptions, receiving yards through the first 7 games this season as he was last season. Remember, he had that really, really hot back end of the year last year.
Yep.
And, that's still fully in play to have a comparable season and to finish strong. He's always been one of those backs that kind of the more touches you give him, the stronger he gets, right? So
Yeah.
I think he'll kind of wear into the late season, and Saturday he'll ride him. But I think that's a huge win for the Colts, and could be a turning point, could be really inconsequential, but I think it's something to have fun with for now.
Yeah, and we got a comment that says the Colts went back to their senses and went with the veteran quarterback to help the first-time coach and play caller. Yeah, I think this is very interesting. So I will just give my thoughts on it. For all the hoopla of Frank Reich going with Sam Ehlinger for the rest of the season, Jim Irsay came back and kind of undermined what Frank chose. He said, well, I implored Frank to make the decision, but I told him it was whoever was going to help us win. That is very different from what we were reading, what we were hearing and seeing. And so it was very interesting to me to see them say, right at the press conference, oh, Sam Ehlinger is going to be the starter for Sunday. And then right before the game, these reports start coming out. Oh, Matt Ryan's running with the first team offense. And it's crazy because, shameless plug, I did write an article on Saturday about how Matt Ryan should be given another chance. I felt like it was unfair for the Colts to make Matt Ryan this first domino in this series of just what I like to call unfortunate events where, you bench Matt Ryan after 7 games, you fire Marcus Brady, you fire Frank Reich. It's the worst offense you've seen in 25 years. Now you've got, Jim Irsay calling Jeff Saturday up in the middle of a Sunday game to say, what the hell's going on with my O-line? And that's a direct quote. And then he calls Saturday back at 1 o'clock in the morning and says, hey, do you want to be the head coach of this football team? That's a lot happening there. And I think a lot of it was just, hey, we're trying to get a sense of what is going on with this football team. We're trying to get a sense of essentially where are we going? I think Jim Irsay was trying to just find anything to pump up his football team. So he's making these kind of unconventional, very emotional moves. But I did think it was very good on Jeff Saturday to put Matt Ryan back at the helm. You've got way too much invested in him to just flat out bench him for the rest of the season, I always thought. Also, Matt Ryan had all of your wins this season, all of them. So as terrible as things have been, Matt Ryan had 4 game-winning drives this season in his 8 starts. I can't say that for Sam Ehlinger. That's not necessarily something a knock against Sam Ehlinger, but for all we were reading and hearing, this mobility of Sam Ehlinger was supposed to fix things. It was supposed to allow him to kind of be, nimble in the pocket, things like that, get the ball out faster. And that didn't really happen. It happened a little bit in the Commanders game, but the sky practically fell in the Patriots game. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, we have to make a change. So good for them. Good on Jeff Saturday for getting his first win. I will say, just to wrap things up on that topic, is that I want to see what the Colts do against the Eagles coming up, and I will save my thoughts for when we go through our pick'em for that for this week. Awesome. That was a mouthful that I just said. So I'm gonna take a breath there. I think I was a little fired up there. All right, so let's hop into the winner's circle here. And there we go. We'll get that off the screen. So winner's circle. So this is the top 5 games from the past week that we thought were worth talking about. So let's start with a really good one. And I hope everybody was watching this game. It is the Vikings beat the Bills in what we're describing as a nail biter. And by all means, I don't think anybody was breathing on either team. As a person who's not a fan of either team, I feel for both of you because I was hesitant to not message you during this game. Like, are you guys okay? You all right? You breathing? This game was wild. And I don't even know where to start, but I want to make sure that I pull up we kind of have some critical plays that we want to show. Maybe I'll start with you, John. Talk to me about Justin Jefferson. Because this man just, I don't know. He, as the kids say, he is him.
They do say that. He's so electric. He's one of those players that's, I don't want to say sneaky athletic when you describe someone like Justin Jefferson, but the way he wins isn't crazy straight line speed, crazy explosiveness, crazy vertical, even size, really. He's just so fundamentally and technically sound, and his timing is perfect. And he really willed that offense back into the game. You saw him on the opening drive, 4 catches, 68 yards, I think, on the opening drive. Got a little.
Nick is just shaking his head. He's already disgusted.
Got a little quiet, and I mean, he made guys like the contested catch ability. He made guys like Dane Jackson, who he made these young corners look awful, but the coverage was actually so tight. I mean, Dane Jackson had a whale of a game. He was holding every play, but he had a good game. He was sticky in coverage, and he had no choice. Exactly. It didn't matter, like it was one of those games where it just wasn't going to matter. I think Trey White's getting mossed if he's healthy. I don't think it would have mattered. Like the zone that Jefferson found himself in late in that game is something I have not seen in my adult life. I watched Randy growing up, but that was the craziest stretch I've seen. And Kirk kept feeding him, which is what you got to do. So kudos to him for that as well. But Jefferson was unfathomably good. If you didn't watch it live, it's tough to even fully gather how good he was and how impactful he was towards the end of that game.
Yeah, so we got a clip, and let's see if I can pull it up here. Holy cow. They were comparing that catch to the OBJ catch from some years ago, very similar with the arm stretched out. But I had seen several people tweet that this is the catch of the century, which I don't know if that's a little prisoner of the moment, but it's certainly up there. When I think of top catches, I think of maybe that catch, the OBJ catch, and then David Tyree in the Super Bowl, like on top of the helmet. Kind of sort of catches like these.
Hopkins, the Hail Mary.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it's honestly and that wasn't even, I would say, like that was the wow catch for me from that game, but he had several others where I was like, this guy is just, I mean, he's unhuman right now. He's impacting this game. He's a one-man wrecking crew. So I thought it was pretty good. And speaking of catches, I want to talk about this Gabe Davis catch as well that I want to bring up because there was talk about whether or not this was actually a catch. So let's bring up this clip and we'll watch it. And then Nick, I want to get your comments on it. But this is a clip from multiple angles here. You're going to see, and I apologize, the footage is a little choppy here, but tried to get it through. You're going to see ground and he kind of bounces on top of it. I on first glance, I did not think it was a catch, and I figured that they would call it incomplete, but it wasn't challenged at all. I don't think so in that game. So, Nick, I want to kind of understand, like, what was going through your mind when Gabe, 1, made that catch, and 2, when it wasn't challenged?
I mean, what was going through my mind, I couldn't really feel my body at that point because of what had happened earlier in the game, but I was in the mindset of just get the hell down the field and get a field goal. But I thought that it was a catch at first. I mean, I saw the 2 feet down. So I was like, oh, good job, Gabe. Good throw by Josh. But then you definitely see a bit of a bobble. I mean, in today's NFL, you have to make like the football move. You have to make like every possible, dimension of your body has to secure the football. And I did not think that he did on that play. I definitely saw like that even if it didn't hit the ground, like there's any bobble whatsoever, it's going to be called incomplete. But obviously there's no coaches challenges, within the last 2 minutes. So it had to be reviewed in the booth. And I guess they just decided that they probably just saw the 2 feet down and thought it was complete. And they were going so quickly that they were just like, oh, whatever, I guess it's a completion. So it was a little weird, but I was like, obviously as a biased fan, I was like, all right, let's keep it going. But whatever. I personally, I've seen it many times. I didn't think it was a catch, but I think that the complexion of him getting 2 feet down kind of like skewed the refs a little bit in the moment. So that's why it was considered a catch in that sense.
Yeah, and I would also say there was another interesting play that happened too. There was a Josh Allen fumble right out of his own end zone, and I have got this one as well. This one I thought was very interesting. I won't play the entire clip because it's about a minute long, but he's coming out trying to just move the ball here, and I don't know if it was a bobbled snap, I don't know if it was just like, hey, everything's moving fast and I'm trying to move fast, but it's very unlike Josh Allen to do this. So I'm going to pull this up as well. End zone. And again, very uncharacteristic like him. Nick, do you think that his elbow was bothering him maybe more than he was letting on in this situation?
I don't think the elbow was a problem whatsoever. He was slinging it just the way. I mean, obviously. So all right, I have a lot of thoughts on this game, obviously. But so okay, on that one certain play, I think that it was more the center Mitch Morse than Josh. I think Morse he was so like crazed by what just happened. They just got the 4th down stop on Cousins, and now they got the ball. When I was with my roommate, and I was just like, this game's not over. Like, I don't know why we're celebrating. I was like, what are we going to do on the half-yard line? Like, what are we going to do? Like, we're going to take a safety, or I don't know what's going to happen. And when that happened, I just wasn't even surprised. I was like, what were we supposed to do? I think that Morris kind of just got a little nervous. It slipped out of his hand. Josh tried to what you notice is Gabe Davis came from behind and tried to push him forward. And we've done that so many times this season on QB sneaks when it's 4th and 1 or whatever. He kind of does this move where Josh like motions him over, and then Gabe comes back from behind and he pushes him forward. And Gabe tried to push him forward, and I think that honestly kind of skewed Josh's like vision of where the ball was, and he wasn't able to even handle it. And then all of a sudden it's on the ground. Josh wasn't like on the ground trying to get it. I think he was just pushed out of the play immediately. And then Vikings guys, and it was like Knox and like this like right guard were trying to get it, and there were way more Vikings guys than Bills guys there. So I think that's what happened there. It was just a tough situation. I didn't know what we were going to do on a half yard. I mean, if we're on the 2-yard line, we could have done that much more effectively. But we were literally on the half-yard line, and I want to see the other 31 teams try to do that play. I don't know what they would do because it's really not easy.
I was shocked that they didn't try to throw it out of the.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I thought that they should have done some kind of bootleg play action and try to get Josh out in space. If he doesn't see anything, he can throw it away or whatever. But I just feel like he's not gonna take a sack. You know him. He's not gonna take a sack. He could have gotten it like 2 to 3 yards, and then the game would have been over. I don't really like the idea of just like barreling forward with all of these Vikings guys right there and knowing what he's gonna do. I didn't think it was a good idea at all, but I totally agree. I thought they should have passed or done something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, completely fair. And it wasn't the only questionable decision that I saw in that game. The other one that I want to bring up, and John, I want you to talk about this one. This is essentially, after we've got this crazy back and forth, Josh Allen makes an ill-advised throw, and I'm going to show it here. Ends the game.
Yep. Do we have the end zone angle on that one?
I don't have the end zone angle on that one. That was the only one that I have. And I think Chris actually loaded these up for us before he had to be with family tonight. But yeah, I think ultimately it looked like he hesitated because he thought he had a throw there. So he just kind of, hey, I need to get the ball out and force a throw that he shouldn't have. And Peterson comes up and essentially, intercepts the ball with no issues.
Yeah, so it was a really, really heady play from Patrick Peterson. He had the one wide receiver, so the farthest wide receiver to the boundary, and the Vikings were playing what's called quarters. So they were playing basically cover 4, both corners and both safeties kind of split the field 4 ways, and they had that deep responsibility. And Josh Allen was reading the boundary wide receiver who Patrick Peterson picked up. And he knows in that coverage that Patrick Peterson needs to protect the sideline, and that's his chief responsibility. And so what he's probably dealing with on that post is that side safety, which was Harrison Smith. And the slot receiver to that side was also running an in-breaking post route that ended up occupying Harrison Smith. So I think as soon as Josh Allen saw that, he saw Harrison Smith start to sink and start to follow that inside post, and thought he was going to have the outside post right behind him. But Patrick Peterson read it the whole way. And basically until Josh Allen releases the ball, Peterson still has outside leverage. So Josh Allen maybe gets that ball in there if he throws it to the back of the end zone. But Peterson actually being able to stay on his hip, right in his back pocket, and still jump in to undercut that throw that probably he and Josh Allen knew he was making when that play started. Was just an insane read by him. So I don't think as much blame, I guess, goes on Josh Allen here. I think it's another phenomenal player on the other side making a phenomenal play and a phenomenal read. But you wind it back, and that was the only play where I thought, I wonder if his elbow was bugging him a little bit there.
Yeah, that's what I
Usually
thought.
he rips that ball in there.
Yeah.
And it was all the way up to that point, to that whole drive. It was like, okay, this has been nuts, but now this feels like what was supposed to happen. Now it's Josh Allen, ball in his hands, late in the game-winning drive. We've seen this on primetime television. And then it went the other way. So great play by Patrick Peterson, but that's the only play where I was like, maybe he wasn't 100%.
And I think that's one of the flaws that he had in that play, is that he trusts his arm so much. And these big arm quarterbacks over the years, Brett Favre, Mahomes, Josh, all these guys, they trust their arms so much. They're like, it's worked my whole career. I've been able to slice that ball right in where I need to, in the spot that I want. And if your elbow's not, and if your shoulder, your elbow's not 100%, you can't make that type of throw. And he thought that he could, and he was just not. The other, obviously, there were so many plays during this game that were so weird and controversial. But I don't understand one thing about what we're doing is that on the last throw that he made in the Jets game, he went to Gabe Davis, and in the last throw he went in the Vikings game, he went to Gabe Davis, and it's like, do you forget that there's 14 running around? I don't really understand. It's just like, I understand, but Gabe Davis is a good player, but he's dealing with a thumb injury at the moment.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been as sure-handed as he was last season. It's a little surprising that we're going to Davis so much late in the game when you have Stephon Diggs. And I feel like Josh, great quarterback and wide receiver duos. Ben Roethlisberger, back when he had prime AB, he would literally look at him and say, Antonio, get open. I'm going to throw you this ball. If we don't convert, then it's all right. But we went to my best player, and I feel like he needs to have a little more trust in his best wide receiver in those big moments. And recently he's been going to his number 2, and it's just a little surprising. I don't know if maybe Diggs is like doubled, but it's just a little surprising that he's going to his number 2 in those big spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Josh Allen will be fine. I'm not necessarily worried about him or things like that. But this is certainly back-to-back games now where he's thrown these very costly interceptions. So something just to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple other games to get through, but did want to kind of take a little bit of time for that one because that one was a thriller. And of course, I've got 2 fans here to speak to it. So let's talk through Lions-Bears. This game was also a little bit of a wild game too. I mean, it's not as obviously as the big rah-rahs as Vikings Bills, but the Lions have come back and now won this. And might I add, they've actually had some really high-scoring affairs several times this year, which I did not see this offense as a very high-scoring, kind of offense. Yeah, I mean, they managed to overcome all the I guess theatrics that Justin Fields, and that's the best word I got. It's kind of just fireworks, so to speak, from Justin Fields. And John, you talked about it last week, how you didn't think that this was necessarily, hey, this is the standard for Justin Fields. It was kind of a flash in the pan for that week, but he did bring, I thought he brought some more of that this week. You saw him making the move, you saw him have this really massive touchdown in this game. What did you think of his play in this game against the Lions?
Well, yeah, I think it's another step towards the right direction in his demeanor in the pocket. I still think he bails a little early from some maybe pretty clean pockets, but he's leaning on what is his most reliable asset right now, and that's his legs.
Yeah.
So I think that's prudent. And also, from an organizational standpoint, I think the last couple of weeks have been a masterclass in tanking. Just about as much possible progress as you could make while still losing the game. I think that's great. I think they're instilling a little bit of confidence, but not climbing the standings. I think that's.
I mean, are they tanking though? Is it
bird's eye view? That's 101. Make sure you lose, but let's get some points on the board, though.
No, yeah, Meg. No, they're not tanking, but the thing is that they're losing, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when I hear tanking, I hear that from like fans' perspective. They're like, "Oh, they're just tanking. Don't worry about it," or whatever else. But I always think differently because I'm like, these players are out here like playing for their jobs and for, you know, hey, they want more for these wins. And no owner, no coach or anything is going to openly admit, oh, yeah, this is what we're doing or whatever else. I think it has to be that, like, okay, if we do our best and we still lose, okay, this really is awful. But I have to think that somewhere, somebody's office, they're having these conversations. Okay, like if we keep losing, like our draft stock is going to go up. Like here, like hey, we could get it to top 10 territory, and then we, you know, we really are working with a couple of things. Like I think that's got to be the conversations behind closed doors. But I cannot think out loud that like the narrative is going to be, yes, we're tanking, like we lost, we're tanking, like that sort of thing. Like
you'd never tell a young quarterback that anyway. Yeah,
it was a little wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, like I can't think that. Now the Lions, I think, you know, they're also probably in the same boat. Like I don't think that they're so much tanking, but they just are still so far away. But they've got really good culture with Dan Campbell. If you watched Hard Knocks this year, like they are buying into whatever Dan Campbell is selling. So obviously there's some good things happening there. They're still producing points, but I think for several of their games, not this one particularly, but several of their games, they've just come up small in the big moments. So for the Lions, I would like to see them maybe put together some better wins as the season goes on. And have it be against some, maybe, you know, a top team or something like that. I mean, the Bears aren't exactly, you know, stellar. So this is like, okay, yeah, this is a very winnable game for them. Would like to see them all. And maybe somebody will come out and say, hey, we're not tanking. We're going all in. All right, let's talk
Sam Ehlinger is the starting quarterback going forward.
They have won 2 straight games though against divisional opponents.
I mean, is Goff going to stay the quarterback there?
No.
I don't think he will. I don't think
Don't give up on the Goffense.
oh
No,
my
we're
word.
giving up
Oh
on
no.
It's been
The
given up.
Goffens, I have never heard that. Oh my word. That's elite level like dad joke right there.
That's
like,
good. He's got to keep starting somewhere.
I can't see it being this past season. Like I think Lions have to go quarterback if they get, you know, in top 10 or things like that. Like they have to.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about Cowboys Packers. That was also here. And it says Aaron Rodgers remains the Cowboys' kryptonite. So, Nick, talk to me about this because the Packers have been looking horrific in several games that they've played, and they even looked pretty bad early on in this game. What changed the tide for them and in order to pull out this win against the Cowboys?
I think it was just heart. I think it was Aaron Rodgers just willing. You know, the thing is that Christian Watson has had so many opportunities, and he's a rookie, and he's a deep ball guy, and Aaron loves those guys, and he hasn't really had that type of guy this year. And there's been so many opportunities for him, but he's just not made those like big time catches. And to see him go deep to Watson early in this game, I was like, that's Aaron Rodgers. I've seen that for years of my life, that he's gone over the top, makes these beautiful throws. And I feel like I haven't seen that at all this season. And that's why one of the reasons why, even though they're still the Green Bay Packers, I'm like, yeah, but like I don't even see any identity of what I've seen in previous years. So that's why when I saw that, I was like, 2 long touchdowns to the same guy. I was like, this is finally he seems to have a connection with this guy. So I think that it was not just heart, but it was also finding and finally being able to connect with a receiver, somebody that he can have some, nuanced trust in. I think that, this was just when I was watching like the third and fourth quarter of this game, I was like, this is a classic Packer game. I haven't seen this from them all season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I took them. That's why I took them to win, because I was just like, I thought that, 3-7 and 4-6 is a big difference. And I thought that, 3-7, they pretty much would have been out of the playoff race.
Yep.
And Aaron, he needed this. He needed, like, at home against a team that he's beaten his whole career. I think that he just needed this. And I thought the defense stepped up with a few interceptions. I thought that he was able to find, finally Watson for the first few times all year, really, in big plays. And, Rodgers is a big play quarterback. And I was in love with how he was able to like manage the game, but also make 3 big touchdown passes that were so integral to the outcome of this game. And going forward, I have a lot of confidence in them actually turning this season around, as I do with the Buccaneers. I think that both of these teams are kind of back on track. I really do.
Yeah, I think the key for the Packers is just can they stay healthy? That's really where where their success lies. But John, talk to me about Dallas's defense. So you kind of saw them unravel a little bit, get shredded a bit by Aaron Rodgers. What did you see that like maybe that went wrong on the field?
Anthony Brown on Christian Watson. Why? So if I'm Dan Quinn, that's the only guy I'm worried about over the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I know they like kind of floating Trayvon Diggs around. He likes kind of jumping the flat, playing that man match across the field, following crossers and things like that. But if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm sticking Trayvon Diggs on Watson. And I mean that's the only guy who can lay it with him, and he's got comparable length. So I think that could have helped in some instances, but at the same time, you saw Aaron Rodgers start to manipulate the pass rush a little bit, and you started to see that veteran savvy come back out. And it was that bounce back game that seemed pretty inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of saw him get back to form a little bit, and I think that's most of what it was being able to diagnose the defense and sort of just getting back into his bag with manipulating the pocket, getting to his spots, getting the throws off, and also being able to rely on that running game. That's something that can get those pass rushers to maybe hesitate just a fraction of a second if the run game's effective. If they're not really just able to pin their ears back, that makes guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons just a hair less effective, and that was just enough for Aaron Rodgers to come back, another NFC North comeback. And great game. I think they're kind of back on track, like you said, Nick. 3-7 sounds just apocalyptic compared to 4-6 sounds like they're right in, and especially with the mashup kind of in that mid tier of the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think that one more comment on this game is that if they want to continue and continue to win in this NFC and become like one of the contenders, that is exactly how they have to play every week. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, I think they accounted for like, I don't know if it was 200 yards, but it was very, very close.
It was like 207 or something.
Yeah. And Aaron Jones with 24 carries, I'm looking at right now, for 138. Dillon 13 for 65. It's not like Rodgers just like decided he was going to throw it 50 times and threw for 450. No, he threw it 14 as 20 for 70%, 220, 3 great touchdowns and no picks, clean game. I think that this version of the Green Bay Packers, they played perfectly to their strength in this game. And I think that if they want to continue winning, obviously Dallas is a good team, so this was a close game. But if they're going to continue playing a little weaker teams, I think they can win a little more handily if they're going to continue playing that way and controlling the clock and not Aaron Rodgers making important touchdown throws and other throws when necessary.
Yeah, and I think Rodgers also spoke about, a couple weeks ago, we talked about these comments that he made about his wide receivers. Obviously, we weren't big fans of the comments, but he was hinting at a larger issue of having reliable targets. And you kind of saw that once he found that little wrinkle in the defense that he could expose, he kept going back to Christian Watson. I think that's what he needed. He needed to be able to find some sort of confidence that he could establish with at least just one of his wide receivers, and getting that run game going allowed them to kind of open up and stretch the field as well. So kudos to the Packers on winning that game. All right, so let's hop into the next one. We get 2 more. So this one is 49ers Chargers, and let me pull that one up. 49ers defeat the Chargers, and by all accounts, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is doing what the 49ers want him to do, is kind of be his normal game manager self. But they're still managing to pull out some of these wins, which I actually thought the Chargers did not play that, quote, bad in this game. I just felt like the 49ers made a little bit more critical, plays down the stretch. So I guess, Nick, talk to me about what your evaluation is of Jimmy Garoppolo up to this point and what you saw from him that you liked in this game.
Yeah, I'm impressed by, year after year, even though there's so much adversity within, the organization, and do we go with him? Do we not go with him? Just to put his head down and continue to win football games. And that's just what he does. And, um, there's a reason that they continue to be favored by a lot of points against teams that aren't even that bad. And it's because this team is really good. And Jimmy, he's kind of like, I don't know if they can win a Super Bowl with him, but I've seen him in a Super Bowl. So it kind of gives me that confidence that they could, screw around. And obviously they were in the championship game last year. So he's just done a really solid job. He's not a flashy player. He's not a go deep over the top player, but I just think that with McCaffrey and Kittle and Debo and a great offensive line, they have a great set of weapons, probably the best set of weapons in the National Football League. With an elite quarterback, this would be like a juggernaut of a team. But I mean, give them Justin Herbert or Mahomes or Josh or anybody like that. I mean, it would be an unbelievable team. But I just think that he's been a very professional quarterback over the last few years. And even, with so much adversity, as I said, he's just been a good guy. And I think he's good for the locker room. They trust him. I think the players trust him more than the coaches and owner does. The players really take to him. So I just think that he's done a really good job, and they're going to continue to win football games just because of how well he meshes with that offense, and McCaffrey's really starting to mix well. So I think it's a good thing they got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really good to see them kind of gel, and getting Debo back was critical for that offense as well. He provides so much of a spark for them.
Yeah.
I almost thought it was too much for the Chargers, and John, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Do you think that the injuries that are on the Chargers are too much for them to overcome? They've been dealing with quite a lot, from Justin Herbert all the way across, it feels like almost the entire team. Do you think that that's too much for them to be able to make a run like deep in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, they're teeing off from a couple yards deeper than every other team that they play. They're just it's just such an uphill battle when when, it's Joshua Palmer is your X receiver for Justin Herbert, and Rashawn Slater's out at left tackle. If I'm not mistaken, Corey Linsley has missed some time as well on another All-Pro on the offensive line who hasn't been there for him. No Mike, no Keenan Allen. Yeah, Herbert's hamstrung. And I think to an extent, Joe Lombardi is as well. And it's not, the route concepts and the flexibility you have with that offensive playbook is really constricted when you don't have a consistent jump ball threat like Mike Williams healthy on the outside, when you don't have a route technician like Keenan Allen who can get separation, who can convert third and mediums for you. And it's just this redundancy, these stick concepts for Justin Herbert. He's not really able to uncork it as much when he doesn't have the weapons healthy. Not that Keenan Allen or Mike Williams are huge deep ball threats necessarily, but they open a lot of things up. So yeah, they're pretty behind the eight ball. But they played tough, and they're still hanging around in the AFC West. And to Nick's point with Jimmy, he is pretty limited, but everybody knows it, and the 49ers know it. And what's interesting is he's not a push the ball down the field kind of quarterback, but it's interesting to look at the weapons around them. They went and got pretty like horizontal weapons. I mean, it's Deebo Samuel who wants to get yards after the catch. It's Brandon Ayuk, who's a pretty intermediate kind of guy. George Kittle over the middle, Christian McCaffrey out of the flat and over the middle. Like there's not even anyone who's missing out on touches for lack of Jimmy's deep ball. It's not an offense that needs it to fully function. So yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do to get that win. Nick Bosa's insane. Next time you see, just really quick, next time you see Nick Bosa line up in a 3-point stance, look how much lower and just like more animalistic he looks than anyone else on the D line. He just looks so charged up. Like it's almost like it's almost like, why doesn't everyone do it? Is this the secret? Like he's just frequent stances that kind of insane. That's something else that jumped out at me. But the defense was great. Of course, Talanoa Hufanga gets his hands on a pick, and the 49ers come away with it. Jimmy does just enough. That was a fun game. But
yeah. I thought it was interesting also at the end of the game, or maybe throughout the middle of the game, they showed the mother of the Bosa brothers. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, she's got to feel torn because she's got the double jersey going on, which, by the way, hers is probably one of the only ones that I'm like, okay, this is acceptable, because I frankly hate the double jerseys. But the divided jersey, and then she's got the football mom hat on, blinged out, like she was ready to go, and she had some chains on too. So
yeah,
I thought it was really
out,
good.
though.
Yeah, it worked. But yeah, in my mind, I was like, I feel like I would feel torn if were both my kids out there, playing. And, I mean, you gotta congratulate one and then tell the other one, hey, you did good too. So, all right, great game for that one. Let's hop into the very last one. So this one was also a really good game, and I want to pull this one up. This is the Commanders, and they quote unquote ruined the Eagles' perfect season. I thought this was really a phenomenal game. And Nick, I want to put this one on you because you called this one. You definitely called the Commanders an upset over the Eagles. And I think I want to pull out one stat that I saw. At one point, the Commanders had owned the time of possession in this game. It was easily 30 plus minutes to like 7 minutes and maybe 40 seconds, right? So talk to me about what Taylor Heineke and crew did to keep the ball away from Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so I mean, don't give me all the credit. Me and John both took Washington for this one, but
you did, yes.
Yeah, I just think that he has something about him that he's just this feisty. He embodies the city. I like him. He's good. He's not great. He's not an elite quarterback, franchise quarterback, but he's good. He's got like this raw dog like mentality of like, even if he makes a mistake, he's like, okay, defense, you got me. I'll get right back out there and I'll fix it. You can see it. He's in every game. I really like his mentality. It seems like they're never blown out with him at quarterback. And I just think that in this game they were, Brian Robinson was great. They got the ball in the hands of Antonio Gibson, not as much as I want to see, but Robinson was really good. And obviously, as I said, with scary Terry McLaurin over 100 yards, I was right on that one as well. And he was just able to find him over and over. And I don't know, something about him being able to find targets in the short vicinity, it just kept drives going, and they were able to like kind of march down and use the run game, and obviously they forced those 3 turnovers. And I think that I was just so shocked to see that the Eagles only had 3 turnovers throughout the entire season, and the Bills had 4 in the Vikings game. I was like, okay, that's wow. But to have 3 in this one game, that's gonna turn the time of possession in every way. So I was still impressed by Philly that they were able to even score that many points with only whatever time of possession they had. They definitely made the most out of their opportunities, except late in the game. But the turnovers, the running of the ball effectively, finding the star receiver, Taylor, extending plays, making it happen, for the most part. He made a few mistakes, of course. It's going to happen with him. But I thought that they were just – it was like a certain, sense of dominance on the time of possession that I really did not expect. I just expected them to play good defense. I didn't expect it to be such a dominant game for them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I want to ask you this as well. And I'm just asking this question because, of course, I'm sure the media will also ask this question this week. Should Philly be worried about the product they put out on the field this week? Is this a cause for concern?
I don't think so. I think it was just a classic NFC East game. If it was something like non-conference trap game playing down to their competition, I might have some more gripes with it. But, I think in a division contest like that, it can be sort of a toss-up sometimes. Those teams know each other so well. Yeah, and it's Taylor Heineke out there. I think a lot of Philly members of that organization might have been hoping for Wentz or thinking they might see Wentz a few weeks back when they were thinking about this game, and that could have thrown things a little bit. Heineke is just kind of that wild card. He knows how to make winning plays. Not really during the middle of the game, but towards the end of it, he can kind of figure it out, and he managed the game. Something sneaky about Washington as well is that O-line is pretty legit. Chase Roulier at center is probably a top 5 center in this league at times. Charles Leno at left tackle has been really solid. Sam Cosmi, a rookie from last year, at the other tackle has been solid. Lost Brandon Scherf to free agency this past year, but that O-line is still pretty solid. So I'm not surprised that they were able to dictate some tempo. And obviously in the trenches on the other side of the ball, Washington's extremely legit. So that's a defensive front that could fluster the best. And we saw that on Monday night. That's probably the best offensive line in football. And, there was some trepidation there from Hurts behind them. So I think a little bit more credit is due to Washington than blame to Philly. I think that's probably about a 60-40 conversation. But I think a little bit, I think the brakes are getting pumped a little bit over there.
Yeah, I mean, I would give full credit to the Commanders. Honestly, they came out and executed their game plan. I think they were able to withstand the quickness of which Philly can score because, I mean, you saw it early on. I mean, they ripped out 2 quick touchdowns. And in my mind, I was like, oh, here it goes. Here's the avalanche here. But they were able to hang in with there. And that just speaks to their toughness, their tenacity. And to your point, Nick, Taylor Heineke was like, you know what? I'm throwing this ball. Like, I'm not scared here. I'm going to go for it. And even in his post-game interview, he just, he kind of gave that like, hey, I'm here to play for my guys. I'm here to play for, this team's organization. I'm here to do whatever they ask me to do. And I like that about him. Like, he knows he's realistic about the situation. He understands what's in front of him. And I think the team needed that. So I do want to get to a comment. There is a comment from Josh. He said, I didn't get to see much of the Washington Philly game. Did Darius Slay have a lackluster game, or did the Commanders avoid him? They didn't have a ton of passing yards, but just curious. Nick, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily think Slay had a bad game, but I mean, if you look at the passing yards that Heineke had, and then you look at the receiving yards that McLaurin had, 211, 128. So
Yeah.
Terry, I think that Terry had 8 catches, and the second, most on the team was Curtis Samuel, who had 2 catches. So yeah, obviously, Josh, you're right. They didn't have a ton of passing yards whatsoever, but I think McLaurin, he's just a really good player, and he's going to find himself open. Slay's one of the best corners in football, and he's been pretty much his whole career. But some games, the receiver beats you, and I don't know if they were necessarily avoiding Slay. I think, obviously C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a pick, but I think that Terry McLaurin just had a really good game. He got open. He got himself open. Heineke was able to find him 8 times for 128. And other than that, they ran the ball a lot. 24 carries for Brian Robinson, 14 for Antonio Gibson. That's a lot of runs of football. And so that's kind of their game plan with Heineke at the helm. And I think they executed it the best they could.
Yeah, would totally agree. All right, so that is our 5 games for the week that we reviewed that we really thought needed a little bit closer look. Let's hop into this injury report, and then we will hop into the Week 11 pick'em. So for the injury report, let me pull that up here. We had several, and I mean several this week. I want to just kind of go through these just to kind of get a sense here. Let me make sure I get them up here. Let's start with the first one. So this was Dante Jackson. I think he has I think it's a shoulder, I want to say. Let me look and see. There, torn Achilles. Oh my goodness, not a shoulder. I'm looking at a couple other ones. Yeah, torn Achilles, so out for the season. That's a really tough blow for the Panthers. We've seen several of that happen for all the way from training camp till now, which I think is tough to be able to see that. That's a really big tendon to tear in my mind. Yes. And I worry about explosiveness long term when you lose an Achilles like that. So certainly something to keep an eye on as he recovers. There's also some other big names that happened. This one's pretty big. You should know this man. Cooper Kupp, high ankle sprain, also had surgery on it. And so now he will be out a minimum of 4 games. In my mind, I'm also concerned because high ankle sprains are tough to come back from in general because they take such a long time to heal. But having surgery on it, I feel like it's also going maybe adding to his heal time. Even if he's out the minimum 4 games, I feel like Cooper Kupp could miss longer. So John, just very quickly from your end, like give me 2 players who you think could help, maybe replace some of that production that Cooper Kupp is bringing.
Yeah, so the obvious one you want to look at and you want to be able to say this is why we got this guy is Allen Robinson. And he just hasn't really been the same kind of guy. So hopefully with the plan in place, maybe to feature him a little bit more with Coop out of the game plan, maybe they're able to scheme him open a little bit more, kind of get him going, boost his confidence a little bit. But I really think it's going to come down to the running game and the backs, and I think it's going to be if Darrell Henderson can also out of the backfield, if he can catch some passes, get some easy gains there, keep the defenses honest a little bit, at least with the run game. I know that offensive line has had some troubles, but I mean, it's all I can do not to put a fork in the Rams with the Cooper Kupp injury, even if it's not out for the year. But yeah, I think if they're able to kind of get Allen Robinson going a little bit, that could supplement some of that production and maybe the backfield. That's all I can come up with for him.
Yeah, I might add in Tyler Higbee if you could get him a little bit more touches there without Cooper Kupp there. He's been a pretty nice safety valve for Matthew Stafford. That would be my pick, just to add it as an honorable mention there for that offense. All right, so here is the shoulder. This is Dallas Goedert, who had a shoulder injury. This is definitely from the Commanders game as well, which is really tough for them to kind of lose part of their offense. We'll see what happens there. How they also replace that injury as well. Production wise, would be curious to see what happens as they have a very quick turnaround. This week they're going to play the Colts as well, and we'll get into that. Mm-hmm. Let's keep going because this one's it's 2 people from this team. So let's start with Hunter Renfrow. So this is an oblique, I believe, for Hunter Renfrow. He was placed on IR, but you also had Darren Waller as well, who was placed on IR with a hamstring. This is tough. This Raiders team is going through it. I don't have any other words for it. They are just going through it. Not only is the sky practically falling with the team not being able to finish games, but they're now accumulating injuries to their offense. And the thing is, they're talented. They actually are really, really talented. Just a quick recap, but Devontae Adams is the stuff of nightmares, and you saw him do work against the Jaguars in the week before last, and then, of course, with the Colts here from the previous game. And, I mean, he's just a stud. That entire offense is pick your poison. So I hate to see that for them. And hopefully that they'll be able to get those guys back. But I think also, John, to your point, this is also another team who I might stick a fork in, like, we're done here. Let's get to the offseason. And I would be shocked, even though Mark Davis says that Josh McDaniels is safe for now. You need patience. Would not be shocked to see things change if they continue to lose games and really only win 2 on the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my thoughts too. All right, let's get through this one. This is Jason Verrett, another torn Achilles. This is brutal for the 49ers. Nick, talk to me. What were your instant thoughts of what kind of impact this would have to the 49ers defense without Jason Verrett?
Oh my gosh. I mean, just injuries is just brutal. Oh my God. Just going through all these. My God. Instant reaction is that they have a balanced core in their secondary. So I just like instant reaction was like they should be able to plug in a guy and they should be able to mix him in, but it's definitely going to hurt. Obviously torn Achilles, right? Torn Achilles, he's going to be out for the year, and that's gonna hurt. I mean, there's other teams that are playing with stars that are out for the year, like the Bills with Micah Hyde out for the year. So San Francisco's gonna have to deal with that. But I think I have confidence that they're a good team. They have a good foundation offensively and defensively. So I think that they'll be able to plug in guys and make it work. Mismatched, they'll be able to do something.
Absolutely. All right, so we have two more. I told you it's a lot this week. I've got Zach Ertz, so he's now out for the season with a knee injury. And John, I want to ask you: do you think it's time for Ertz to retire?
Zach Ertz.
Yes.
Zach Ertz.
He, I was surprised he got that lucrative of a extension, just because when the Cardinals signed him, it was a late off-season addition.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of teams interested. And then they brought him back on that big money deal. Injury concerns already, and now the big one comes. So, I think it's just another pretty donkey brain decision from Steve Keim. And the Cardinals might bounce back. That offense can be really streaky. But that's a big loss. That's a big loss for them, and it's a guy who has been really important to them since he's gotten there. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but certainly not least, so Shaquille Leonard is out for the season, back surgery recently for nerve issues that have been lingering since this offseason. This is his second surgery in 5 months now. I saw some comments, and I'm just going to probably take this one and give my comments on it because it's my team, of course. But saw some comments earlier today about Leonard potentially, this could be career impacting, career changing here. Nerve issues are a really big issue in general, but to have them in your back, they can totally, of course, change your trajectory. And shout out to producer Chris, because he actually wrote a really nice article today. Shameless plug. If you go to anyintercept.com, there's an article that we did a write-up on this move here. But Chris kind of outlines in his article some players that, like, hey, they've made the comeback from nerve issues, but that list is not very long, not a whole lot. So this is certainly concerning from the Colts. I think just because of the type of player I know he is, that he'll bounce back. But it's certainly something to keep an eye on if you're the Colts, and certainly, wish him the best in his recovery efforts, and just go get healthy. He's been through a lot: concussion, broken nose, the nerve issues this year. Like, it's injuries are just, they're wreaking their way across the NFL. And like I mentioned earlier, we saw it all throughout training camp. Starting then, people out for the season, preseason, out for the season, those sorts of things. So we'll be looking to see, these teams get healthy as the season goes on, and of course into the off season. All right, so now we've come to kind of what I like to call my favorite part of the show. So let's talk through the week 11 pick'em. So this is a rapid fire, and we're actually going to do this one rapid fire style. I think we've been attempting to do it this past couple of weeks, but we've been a little excited about talking about games. So I think last week we had a comment, hey, give me some hot takes. We really want some hot takes for these picks. So what we're going to do for these week 11 picks is actually I'm going to read them out. And then, of course, I will, pick John or Nick to give me their thoughts. And it's literally off the top of the dome. Who do you have? No thoughts afterwards, like just top of the dome. We'll probably have comments because I'm sure Nick, as he has been for the last 2-3 weeks now, has been calling some nice upsets, and John as well has called some really nice upsets, and I have to get my life together with my picks. So, all right, let's start with the top. So Thursday, we have Tennessee at Green Bay. John, who do you have?
Green Bay at home.
Oh, okay. All right. Starting spicy early. Nick,
keep it rolling. Relax.
I got Green Bay as well.
Green Bay at home. What?
RELAX.
RELAX, baby.
It depends on who plays for me for Tennessee. I think that defense is playing lights out. Yeah, give me Green Bay at home as well.
I wonder if it'll snow. There was a game 2 years ago against Tennessee at home that it snowed. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was a fun one to watch.
It's that time of year now for snow. So, all right, let's keep going. So Chicago at Atlanta. Nick, who do you have?
I'm gonna take Chicago. They're rolling a good offensive stretch.
Okay, John, who do you have?
Yeah, I think this is the one Chicago gets as well. I think this kind of the momentum finally culminates in a net positive on the scoreboard.
I also have Chicago as well. I think Justin Fields is playing really well. I would like to see him continue to do so, and actually, yes, net out some wins for that. All right, next one on the list is Carolina at Baltimore. John, who do you have in this one?
Ravens by a lot, I think.
Okay. All right, Nick, who do you have?
Yeah, Baker's back, but Ravens by a lot.
Yeah, give me the Ravens at home. I don't see Carolina having anything that could stand up to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Nope.
There's that. All right, Cleveland at Buffalo. Nick, I'll start with you. Who do you got?
I gotta take my Bills. We gotta bounce back.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. John, who do you got?
Yeah, Cleveland looked rough last week too. I got Bills.
Yeah, I think it's really tough to go into Buffalo and win a game there. So yeah, give me Buffalo at home. All right, Washington at Houston. Nick, who do you have?
Yeah, definitely Washington. As I've said, like they're a team that actually plays pretty well on the road with Taylor. So I got Washington for sure.
Yep. Okay, John, who do you got?
Yeah, they've been a really good road team. I'm going to go Washington as well. Texans, worst record in the league right now. Washington rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Washington as well, despite the probably obvious rookie campaign for Dameon Pierce. I don't think it's enough to kind of overtake what Washington is bringing to the table. So give me Washington. All right, so Philadelphia at Indianapolis. John, who do you have?
I think Philly bounces back. I don't think they lose 2 in a row, but I think it's a really hard-fought game.
Okay. All right, Nick, who do you have?
I'm going to go with Indianapolis. I think that Jeff Saturday's got this rolling. I think he's going to go with Taylor a lot again, and I like it.
Jordan Davis still out, I think,
too.
like
the Eagles. Sorry, I don't like him.
Jordan Davis still out, I think, too.
Yes, he is. He is. I'm actually going to go with the Colts at home. This is an upset pick. It's actually a change for me from my preseason prediction. But I think the Colts have found some sort of rhythm. They've got some really good things going on with Parks Frazier. Would like to see them continue it. And they also beat the Chiefs this season when no one thought they could. So give me Colts in an upset. All right. Jets at New England. Nick, who do you have in this one?
I got New England. Yeah.
New England. Okay. All right. John, who do you got?
I got New England too. I think it just gets uglier in the AFC East. I think all those teams beat up on each other the rest of the way. Oops. I think every time every team with a better record is going to lose. I'm going to pick the worst record in the division in these games, and it's just going to be.
I like the logic. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm also going to go New England at home. For whatever reason, this Jets New England rivalry is very interesting. Given now that Brady is gone, it's still kind of a toss up sometimes on these games. But give me New England. They're coming off their bye week as well. They should be rested. Let's see Mac Jones play a little bit better here. All right, Rams at New Orleans. John, who do you have?
Saints, probably the worst Super Bowl defending champs in recent memory.
A little dramatic.
That's going to get worse.
Yeah, he was talking about sticking a fork in the Rams. I already did that like 3 weeks ago. I got New Orleans.
They're overcooked.
Oh, they don't have anybody.
Nick is like, yeah, you're late to the party here.
I did that. Yeah.
The New Orleans has looked a little up and down the last couple of weeks, but I think New Orleans here at home, I like them in this game. All right, Detroit at Giants. Nick, who do you have in this one?
I got the Giants, no doubt.
Okay. All right, John, what about you?
Lions, a little bit of doubt.
Lions, okay.
Yeah, we go Lions. Right. I think
Good.
the Giants are going to lose a random one. And the Lions are always close. And the Giants always let you be close.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just going chaos.
Okay, I'm here for the chaos. I'm here for the chaos.
Well, what's weird is the Giants are 7-2, and the Lions are, I don't know what the record is, but it's way under. And it's Giants like 3. 3.
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
So that gives you kind of like it's like it definitely could be a Lion upset, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. Yeah. I'm still gonna go Giants though. Give me the G-Men at home. All right. Vegas at Denver. So this is Las Vegas Raiders at Denver. This it's gonna be a barn burner here. Nick, who do you have?
Oh my gosh. Russell actually played really well in the first half in the last game, and then he obviously did his let's ride thing in the second half, which means I stink. So I'm so tired of him. I'm never taking the Raiders again, though. I said something in Denver.
All right, John, who do you got?
Yeah, Denver 13-9.
Oh,
3-0.
Yeah.
That is so disgusting. I'm gonna take Denver, and I pray it's not 13-9.
Denver would be 8-1 this season if they scored 18 points in every game.
That's probably fair. That's probably a fair assessment. Completely fair.
But they're
all right. Let's go Cincy at Pittsburgh. Nick, who do you have in this one?
I see Josh said Steelers over Cincy upset special, but I don't believe it. I got Cincy.
You got Cincy. Okay. All right. And then John, who do you have?
Yeah, I think Cincy's kind of figured it out. But that's another one of those divisions where it's like, anybody playing the Steelers in that division, it's hard to count out the Mike Tomlin regime. But yeah, I'm gonna go Cincy. I think they've kind of got a handle on things.
Yeah, give me Cincy as well. I want to see Joe Burrow play a little bit cleaner of a game. These are just such odd games, no matter what the record is. But give me Joe Burrow. I think that's probably the difference there. All right, Dallas at Minnesota. John, who do you got in this one?
I think this is a cleaner win. I think the Vikings are riding high, and I think that was kind of the win to get them to a point where they're really, really confident. And the Cowboys coming off a game just blowing a lead to Green Bay. Honestly, I don't even think they want to be up against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I got Vikes, and I think handily, or at least not very stressfully.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas coming off a tough loss to Green Bay. Sky's falling. Dallas fans want Dak out of there. Vikings coming off a huge win, so that's why I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Oh, grief. All right. I'm actually going to take Minnesota at home. I look for them to continue rolling. Give me Kirko Chains here at home. All right. I don't know if I like that one as much. I'm
going to be here next week after Dallas won, and I'm going to be stunting on you guys. So.
Bring the chains to the next show if they win.
We need one of those. All right. This one, Kansas City at Chargers. Nick, who do you have here?
Chargers they don't have enough, Kansas City.
Gotcha. Okay. John, who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, if literally like two of the nine starters that are out were healthy, I think I'd take the Chargers here just because I always thought they'd split. Mm-hmm. And get one and kind of hang around in this division, but because it's a 2-team race right now. Yep. And after this week, I think it's going to be a 1-team race, right. and injuries are just going to get the best of them. Spagnuolo's got the defense humming too, actually. So,
yep. Give me Kansas City. I don't think that the Chargers have enough. It's not going to be like the game from earlier in the season. They are just riddled with injuries right now, and I feel like that's going to be prime for Patrick Mahomes. All right, last one. So this is San Francisco versus Arizona, and this is actually in Mexico City on Monday. So, Nick, who do you got?
Yeah, San Francisco all the way. Even if that game was in Arizona, I'd take San Francisco without a doubt. So.
All right, John, same for you?
Yeah, probably just as much of a home game for them in Mexico City. But, yeah, I'm going Niners. I think the Cardinals are pretty unserious, and the Niners are very – serious. So I think this is a game San Fran can't really afford to lose either. I think they batten down the hatches.
Yeah, I think for San Francisco, they are hitting their stride. So I look for them to kind of continue it against the Cardinals. Yeah, give me San Francisco in Mexico City.
Cool.
All right, so that was pretty good. That was our first kind of truly rapid fire. I think we did pretty good there. We even got some hot takes in there from both of you, so which is great. All right, so I want to say this. So we appreciate you for watching, for listening. Make sure that if you did watch or if you listen, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure that you also subscribe to this channel as well, so that you get the notifications for our show, but also for the other live show from Stadium Rant. It's called The Bounce, and it's on Thursdays. I believe it's at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's with Kev and James, and they kind of go over the NBA and from their thoughts and their point of view. Of course, you can find all the good NFL content that our staff writes at stadiumrant.com. You can also find all of the NFL podcasts on Spotify. I believe if you let me back up. If you put in your search bar too fast, you can make sure that you type in NFL on Stadium Rant podcast. There you go. It's a mouthful. As always, there's no flags here for the roughness, but the comments are certainly necessary, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.